Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Undaunted Man Podcast. I'm Mark, and this is
I'm
Jeff,
Jeff.
and we're going to be riffing a little bit today on the nature of emotions. I've been thinking about emotions a lot recently because I've noticed, especially with all this Charlie Kirk stuff going on, how many people sincerely believe they are thinking, but what they are actually doing is feeling. And they
Yeah.
are confusing their emotions for thought, and they are confusing their emotions for truth.
Yeah, like
So,
reality. What they're feeling is reality.
right. And now emotions are the only true thing about emotions is that they tell you how you feel about what's true, but they don't tell you what's true. And so my thesis for this morning is that we have overemphasized emotions to the point where they are as destructive as thoughts we used to consider thoughts back in the day when we first started on this personal growth, psychology, spirituality journey. Because back then, I remember thoughts were the devil because um, thoughts without sufficient emotion and without sufficient spiritual connection are dangerous. There's been any number of quotes. Carl Sagan, Albert Einstein, all have phenomenal quotes about our knowledge outstripping our wisdom. And wisdom doesn't come from emotion. Wisdom comes from spiritual connection, inner knowing. Um, but it's much more difficult to reach that still small voice when you're completely disconnected from your emotions. So
Yeah.
the emphasis over the last 30 years on getting connected with our emotions, especially for men or people with a masculine essence, has been incredibly valuable. But we have gotten to the point now where we've jumped the shark and we consider emotions truth, and they are not truth.
Yeah, and it helps it make more sense too, given what you're saying, that emotions are always ephemeral. I mean, we can feel them, but probably wrong word. They're temporary, they're transitory.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings to mind, just as a side tangent, about go for contentment, not happiness, because happiness is usually externally oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions are about what's happening out here usually. And so it's no wonder that we're in the chaotic, divided, divisive times we're in, because everybody's feeling all kinds of shit, thinking it's all true, and just the transitory nature themselves of feelings means chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know you and I are teaching and supporting with the men we work with, the one thing that's never chaotic, now to the mind it can be inconvenient, but what's never chaotic is our connection to our own spirit, and for those who believe in a higher power, connection to that. But the
Right.
inside, the still small voice you were just talking about, that's never chaotic. And before Mark and I hopped on, I was sharing how I had gotten caught up in a lot of emotions, and it got me off track with my spiritual commitments and, my commitments to myself. And he reminded me of what one of his teachers said. I'm paraphrasing, but when your feelings are hijacking you and taking you over, you've got to go in. to like
Mm-hmm.
paraphrase that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that's just what your last share brought up for me. Of course, we're in this condition because emotions need to be felt and expressed, but they're not to be. They make a really, really crappy GPS system.
Yeah, I describe them in the groups that I run and the people that I work with as capricious and contradictory. And it's easy to see how contradictory they are in everyone. I mean, and we've all had the experience of in relationship. 1 minute, your partner is like an angel floating 6 inches off the ground, surrounded by a soft white glow, and can do no wrong. And then 5 minutes later, they're the devil, and you hate them, and you wish they would go away. You wish they weren't in your life anymore, or why are they torturing you the way they are?
Right.
And it flips like a light switch. And so, using emotions as anything other than a data point is, it's like trying to follow a magnetic compass into the Bermuda Triangle or something. Or try to use celestial navigation with a cloudy sky where there's no celestial bodies
Right.
visible. I mean, it's a guaranteed pathway into chaos and destruction.
Yep.
And that's on a personal level. It's also at the level of your family. It's at the level of society as a country. The more emotional, the more dominated by emotions we become, the more disastrous our outcomes.
Yep. Yep. And I want to go back a second to what you said a little bit ago about a data point, which is a great way of putting it. And, so I want to be clear with everybody that a life with no emotion whatsoever is also dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
That we do, but now I've come to see in the last year or so this data point part. And so I think it's really useful to, when you are having strong feelings, that you reframe them as, okay, what's the data being given to me here? And then we have to go in to our being, our connection to source, whatever that means for any one person, for the guidance. Good data, useful data, useless data. What do we have to go in for the next action, because I do think emotions can be good igniters of action, and you just want to make sure you're not acting from the framed in perspective of whatever the feeling is and the thought that led to the feeling.
Right. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that emotions aren't useful. I think they are useful. But they are just one data point among many data points. And in our world these days, um, everything that we consume, whether it's social media, um, newspapers, TV news, wherever we get information, whatever we are feeding ourselves, every single thing is designed to generate an emotional response, because
Yep.
emotional responses create impulsive action. Back in the way old days, back when newspapers were still a thing, there was a saying in the news business: if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
That that meant that the headline was going to be as gruesome as they could get away with. The teasers on your local TV news are going to be as gruesome as they could get away with. The national news, as gruesome as they can get away with, because they know that most people, as soon as they have an emotion, they go completely unconscious, And if you can get an emotional hook, you
Yep.
got them, and then you can feed them whatever bullshit and nonsense you want to, because you've already got the emotional hook.
Which brings to mind, for those watching, a perfect example of what Mark's talking about. Go way back into Mr. Whoopi's Wayback Machine, and you have to be really old to even know what the hell that means.
Right.
And listen to Don Henley's song "Dirty Laundry."
Yeah.
Which is all about, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
If it ain't bleeding, it can't lead.
Right. It's true.
Such a good song. It just
It is
says
a
it
really
all
good
so
song.
perfectly. And here we are.
Right.
40
Yeah.
years later, here we are.
Well, and everyone that was decrying the, the state of media, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, there were people predicting where we were going to end up. And here we are. I mean, the movie All the President's Men came up in conversation with some friends recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, I got a little misty and a little sad, because even though obviously that was dramatized for the movie, the actual journalism that went into breaking that story and the impact of that story is just unheard of these days. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does happen, but it gets buried and covered up behind all the sensationalism and the need to be first, to press. I guess it's not first to press anymore, but first to publish on social media, first to make an Instagram post, first to make a tweet, first to make write a Substack article. The pressure to be first means that you are invariably will not be the best, and you're going to get some stuff wrong. Can't be done any other way. I mean, we see that now again with the Charlie Kirk thing. People arguing is, the guy that shot Charlie Kirk, or that has been accused of shooting Charlie Kirk, or is being blamed for shooting Charlie Kirk, depending on your perspective. Is he MAGA, or is he a trans activist or something?
Right.
Who the hell knows? We get equally credible or incredible reports purporting to prove whatever works for your prejudices or wishful thinking or what you wish was true. And the truth is that we don't know yet. We don't know. And we may never know, or we might not know for 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And is he being scapegoated? Is he covering? I mean, I've run into very few people that believe that he was even capable of making that shot. So, and I'm not saying that, I mean, I know enough to know that there's no way that I know enough to have a credible opinion on this. So I'm not putting an opinion out there because I have no idea.
Yeah.
All I know is that there is a ton of conflicting information out there. And I know what my own biases are and how toxic those biases can be if I allow myself to give into them. So I just wait. And I've got people that I love dearly trying to convince me that Charlie Kirk was a horrible person and deserved to die, and laughing at the irony of Charlie Kirk being shot by a MAGA guy. And I've got people that I love dearly that are trying to convince me of the opposite of all that.
Right.
And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know.
No,
I don't
all
know.
we know is a murder happened, and it's
Right.
creating a lot more fodder for the kind of emotionalism, and in particular, I mean, this has also really come up a lot for me in the last week with clients and my
Mm-hmm.
groups. Fear. Fear is the emotion that media goes after,
Mm-hmm.
tries to stoke. And it really doesn't matter whether you're on the left or the right or in the middle. Fear is one of, there's a rightful place to be afraid. Like if your foot's stuck in a railroad track and an engine's coming,
Mm-hmm.
you damn well better be afraid. Your body needs the adrenaline to get you the fuck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But above and beyond that, like literal physical peril, it's not like this is new news to me or you, but it's staggering the level of escalating fear. This, I believe being stoked deliberately because it gets you eyeballs. But
Well,
it
it
doesn't
also
get you clear thinking or clear inner listening.
right, right, but it also makes when we are emotional and we are running and being run by our emotions, we are very easily manipulated and controlled.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's the fundamental problem. We are so easily manipulated and controlled when we are lost in our emotions and when we confuse emotions for thinking or confuse emotions for listening to that still small voice.
Yep.
And that's the fundamental problem. I mean, so much of what we do is designed to help men not be consumed by their emotions these days
Right.
and to have a healthy balance between thought and emotion while recognizing the limitations of both because they are both profoundly limited in the face of that interconnection.
Yep.
They're both profoundly limited in the face of that interconnection. And um, so if you don't have access to that inner voice, or if you think your emotions are that inner voice, or if you think your intellect is that inner voice, you're limited and, to borrow a term that I really dislike generally, problematic.
Well, I'm just appreciating the irony too from what you're saying that, our organization used to be called the Evolving Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're nearing the end of year 2 of being the Undaunted Man, if I've
Yeah,
got
or
the
three. I
chronology
think
right.
3. Is it 3? Maybe it's 2.
I think it's 2. I think the
Okay.
January of last year
Okay.
was when we were in
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin. January,
Mm-hmm.
winter of 24. We were in Wisconsin
Mm-hmm.
and having breakfast at a hotel,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Undaunted.
Mm-hmm.
And now it means even more to me
Mm-hmm.
because when any of us get caught in the cycle or cyclone of what you just described, then we're daunted.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's daunting to deal with life, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But certainly everything you're describing and how it's showing up in our, you know, discourse, online, offline, etc. The path to undauntedness, being undaunted,
Mm-hmm.
which one definition is courageously resolute. I can't pull that off without being connected to my higher self, my being, my connection to spirit. That's where I feel the least daunted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And as Mark said, that's why we're here. That's
That's why we're here.
what we're up to.
So,
So if that tickles your fancy,
mm-hmm. Let us know what you
rings your
think.
bell, scares the crap out of you, and gives you a massive pucker factor, and you can make it up what that means, then we invite you to go onto the undauntedman.com and take a read. Set up a meeting with Mark or I. Come to one of our groups. Won't cost you a dime to check it out. But the potentiality, as Mark and I keep retruing ourselves to with each other, with the work, with our men, is limitless. And that's much more freeing